And wait for this recording to kick in. Hello, everyone, and thank you. So let's go. Again, for the new one, polls are still open if you want to answer. Agenda, like we just did the hello and polls, I'm going to give a pollination updates for the whole product and then a Revit plugin demo, and then we go for Q&A. So for the new ones here, what's pollination? Pollination is an ecosystem of tools for environmental building design and simulation, and our goal is to get you from questions to actionable data quickly. And what makes us different is we don't think about the process like this, from question to actionable data. We more think about you have an initial question, get an initial data, then have a more informed question and get to actionable data eventually. And the problem that we're trying to solve is this collaboration platform that we see, collaboration issue that we see, where you have the designers and you have what we call design track versus analysis track, where there is a disconnect that the simulation side always, is behind of the design changes, and you have this time with no feedback that we call a 2-week gap with the place that the design change. We want also to solve this major issue of cleaning up, drawing the model, which is the part that the Revit plugin helps a lot, and I'll show you today. The way pollination works is by staying in the middle, basically provides this logics as a cloud service or SaaS. You can think about it as a reusable unit of logic, so you can work together, you can collaborate together in a smooth manner. So for that, we have developed 5 different technologies: CAD plugins, recipes, apps, cloud computing, and web interface. The way they go together, and this is a new graph, so I go slow, is we have cloud on one side and desktop on another side. So all the cloud technologies are on this side, and then CAD plugins on the other side. Our cloud technologies start with cloud computing that allows you to run all the simulations on the cloud. Then we have repositories for recipes and apps. And we have projects and galleries, concepts for data management and project management. You can access this using our web interface from Pollination, or you can actually access them from our CAD plugin side. So on plugin side, we have Revit, which is what we're going to show today. Then we have Rhino, which is the more flexible interface for creating analytical models. And we have the Grasshopper side for parametric studies. The good news is if you're a Ladybug Tools user, Grasshopper plugin works seamlessly with Ladybug Tools plugins. Then we have apps in the middle that brings everything together. Apps can be loaded from web, can be loaded from the CAD plugins. They can talk to our API, to our Pollination Cloud using our API, or they can talk to any third-party services using their API. For example, if you have a server with Rhino Compute, you can just connect to that as part of the app logic. Or if you're working with SimScale and you want to run some CFD and bring the result in, that's how you can do it. And eventually, if you have it on one side, on plugin side, you can go out with all these file formats and use other software. And as you can see, we are trying more and more to generate files like IMP and GEM and minimize the reliance on GBXML for a smoother, better experience of interoperability. And if you have a different software that wants to use our API, you can use that and add all this functionality to your third-party application. So publications and presentations that happened during the last month. Pollination was featured on Department of Energy's website. You can probably Google and find this. This is a post that gives you an overall idea. If you have been to our user meetups, you probably know most of them. Otherwise, it's a great thing to read. Our March newsletter is out. You can find it on our website. Go to the footer and you can click and find all of them. If you're not part of the newsletter, you want to sign up probably now to get the rest of the newsletters. Product updates. So on product updates, I changed the order a little bit. First thing is we started transition to paid. Rhino plugin went paid March 14. This week or last week, on Monday. Revit plugin will go paid March 29 from beta. And then we start for the cloud computing going paid in April 11. We basically start rolling out, and your account will be changed to a starter account from whatever account you have right now. You can see more information in pollination.community, and I saw John Key copied the links there for you if you want to click and read more. On Pollination Rhino plugin, what we have done last month, one of the most important ones is the result visualization is now much better. So now you can pick and move legends. You can have multiple legends. You can do all the editing that we used to do with like different color sets. And now the legends are saved in your file. So if you have a file, you bring the result and you set up your legends and you save it and you open, someone else open it, it's part of the Rhino document. So you don't lose it. Then this Rhino plugin case study, Assis, who I think is on the call, shared one of the models that he worked with. We shared this model on LinkedIn. This was a really good model to showcase because it has 600 different rooms. It has a lot of natural ventilation going on, air walls, like, you know, solid JSC, whatever kind of challenge you can think about building an energy model, this one had. And he used the Rhino plugin for that. And it was a very, I mean, I think successful experience, as it should say. But it was great to work together through this. And after this model, he had another model with like 300 rooms, if I'm not mistaken, that took like 2-3 hours to model. A reminder that Rhino plugin has all these interoperabilities, and we are just working on them to make them better. If you see any issues, report it. We'll be more than happy to fix them. And that's part of the offering of the Rhino plugin. So just the features that we have done and are available just to review. So importing and exporting model now is in a very stable place and works as expected. You can create a model from scratch, no problem. Debugging and fixing models is in a very good place. We have several commands that you can use to do that. The reason I didn't put 3 of them because we still want to make sure, like when you get some error on validation, you can link it to the geometry automatically instead of going and searching it in the UI. Integration with Ladybug Tools Grasshopper plugins works pretty well. We have some work to do on resources that we're working on. But for most of the cases that you guys have, you can work on it. With Pollination Cloud integration is good. You can run it, but we didn't work a lot on the UI. That's something that comes with apps. And for result visualization, as you see, like we are working on it actively to make it better. I just mentioned the integration with Pollination app that's working, but we have to do more on that. So one thing that we want to do, we want to improve the current features that you saw in the other post. And we have been doing this for a while, but I want just to make it clear to everyone, we work on a complaint-driven development. When we have the base of the software built, you can search that and you can see that means like if 3 people or 4 people complain about the same thing every week, we know this is very important, we fix it. So this is on you. Fixing it is on us, right? Just if you see something that you don't like, I saw even some people post the stuff and then they delete it. It's just like, oh, never mind, I found a workaround. We'll fix it. Just put it there. Say it is wrong. We'll be happy to fix it for you. On Grasshopper plugin side, we improved a few components. This is only important if you are a Grasshopper user and connected to Rhino. But now the PROM components are looking much better, very similar to Grasshopper PROM components. And there were a few small bugs and like syncing and all those that they have been fixed. So I'm not going to show this the whole video because I don't know like how many people are really interested. But this is very helpful to bring your work from Rhino to Grasshopper quickly. Then, if I can go next steps are improve resource components, as I said, the schedule set, construction set, all those to bring to have a better connection between Rhino and Grasshopper. And then the same, complaint-driven development. Let us know what do you need, what's the parts that really bothers you, or what's the part that you like and you want to be better. We'll be happy to help you with that. Pollination platform, the major difference that you will see is our viewer. Now the viewer is improved performance-wise, a lot of details, but the most important one, you will see a floating bar here that has all the data. So you don't have to go all the way under grid to be able to find data. You can quickly go through the data and visualize them. And there is a good level of control on color set, range, basically all the things that you need to do a meaningful result visualization. On Pollination app side, and because we're so late, I'm trying to go fast to have enough time for Revit, but deep breath, you're fine. On the app side, so we started support deploying the apps. So this is a screenshot of our staging. And you can see now when you build an app, you can literally like run a command and then deploy to Pollination, which means everyone else, once we bring this to Rhino, and Revit can access these apps from inside their CAD plugins. They can also access the apps from the web UI, as you can see here. A reminder of how apps works. We have developers and users on two sides, and we are providing the package manager and the user interface for distribution. So this is now done. This is the one that I just showed. It's like almost there. The integration with Rhino is done. The web-based integration is done. And the Revit one is the one that we will work on. And the initial release will be without having the Revit there. So this is a little bit long video. It's like 2 minutes. Oops, I wanted to make it faster. Maybe just quick. But this is kind of shows the concept of like how apps will work from inside Rhino. So this is a GIS app that you can go, and it has like different ways of finding the location. But in this part, you put an address and you put the radius, and it gets the context for you, right? So this is the context app. Then you can visualize this in Rhino, or you can just take it to Rhino. And as a pollination model or as geometry. Then you can think about this as like how you work on your phone with different apps. Like, you know, one app does something, and then you can take data from one app to go to the other app. So then you can take that and go to, this is a direct sunlight app. So you can start now setting it up for running the direct sunlight. And I mean, this is the part that I go faster. And you can run it, and then you can bake the result to Rhino, and then you have the result to Rhino. Again, on your phone, if you think about it, you go to an app, you generate something, you save it to your phone to use it later. This is similar to that. So that's what apps are going to make possible. You have different solutions that can talk to each other, and you can customize and you can share. And as I said, right now we only have for Rhino, but they will be working at least from Revit, and we are also doing a test with the SketchUp, which has been successful so far. Import Rhino geometry is currently working. Import pollination model currently working. React to Rhino events currently working. So if you're changing something in Rhino, it can trigger the app, so you can have kind of a live workflow watching your model changes. Then you can visualize the resultant geometry inside Rhino, and you can bake geometry from the app to Rhino. So kind of like the overall workflow is working. We're trying to stabilize it and build more useful apps so we can see how to work with them. Next steps. We will document and start early access release for app deployment very soon. And then we start developing with Revit. And SketchUp, as I said, is something that we have been working on. And then deploy several apps so you can start, you don't have to start from scratch. Finally, the one that is this user meetup is about is the plugin, the Revit plugin. So one of the things that happened with Revit plugin, as I said, we basically cleaned up this menu now, and we put everything in one single workflow. So if you remember, we had like add sensor grids, we had other stuff that everything is now happening in a single workflow. You start to the end. The other thing is we add, and this is a little bit of detail, and I'm not going to show today, but we added the level of access to sub-layers for a curtain wall. So if you have a curtain wall which is partly glazing, now you can say this part is glazing, but the other part is not glazing. So it just exports the top part as glazing, or in this case, the top part, or any part that is that you select as an aperture. Features breakdown. Extracting clean analytical model from Revit is working. Supporting both extruded and detailed model extraction is something that's fully working now. Export to different formats. The reason I didn't put 3 there is because the radiance one, I think, is not integrated. It's not hard to add, but we never did it because no one asked for it. Then extracting shade and context geometry is still the way we select them is not the most, is not optimized, but it works. As you will see, like we export all the plants, and you can add extra context. And integration with Pollination Cloud is working, but we are waiting to use apps instead of writing different, UIs for Rhino versus Revit. We want you to have the same user experience, and I'll show this today too. So we want to improve context geometry selection. We want to start integration with Pollination apps for Revit. And as part of that, we will work on better result visualization and documentation inside Revit. and of course, whatever you guys want to happen and is important to you. With that, I'm going to go to live demo, but before waiting to see if anyone has any questions, I want to thank Conrad. We mentioned this, but we don't mention it enough, I think. Without Conrad, this would have not happened. Like, you will see, like, where, I don't know where we would have been. If you know Revit, you probably know Conrad. He doesn't need introduction. But if you don't know him, he is the guy behind Archilab. He is one of the bad monkeys, and he is a co-founder of Bimbit. So check his work out. And if you have any Revit-related, Dynamo-related issues, you should hire him. Highly, highly, highly recommended. And if he doesn't have time, I probably can recommend you. But now he knows energy modeling stuff too, that I think he didn't know before through this project. So yeah, thank you again. So this is the agenda. I'll do a plugin overview, then do the export model workflow, both go through extruded versus detailed, do a little bit of quality control using several models, and then I will run a daylight study on pollination, because a lot of people ask if you can run a study from inside Revit plugin. The answer is yes. We don't suggest it as much, mainly for energy modeling, because for energy modeling, you still need to do some extra work for model to be clean enough. But for daylighting, the model is clean and you can run. And we also don't have result visualization inside Revit, but we have it on pollination. I'll show you that. And then export model, again, depending on what people like. I have been thinking about showing the IES workflow and the eCourse workflow. Any questions so far before I move to live demo and I start opening Revit while Revit is thinking? John, is there any question?
Yeah, there was a question, but Devon kind of answered it, and also you're going to go over it at the end of your presentation. So I think we're okay.
Should I know at least?
It was export to gem. Yeah.
Yes, I will.
Like, how does the import-export format work? Does anyone else have any questions before Mustafa gets started? You can totally unmute if you need to.
Okay. On the other screen that I have, Revit is still trying to open. We finally did. Well done, Revit. So, and I have nothing, like, it's just like Revit. They're like, anyways, I'm not going to complain about Revit. So this is about the good things about Revit, not bad things. One of the great things about Revit is it's great for documentation. You have all the information, and we all know about that. It has room and spaces, and we all complain about it, but we all use it. So we get, either as architects, you have the model that you want to do analytical studies. Consultants, at least in the US, use Revit or get Revit models from clients, customers, and they want to use it. And that's why we developed the Pollination plugin for Revit. So the main reason we developed it, again, is to take this clean analytical model out of Revit. The tabs that we have here, one is on the plugin side. So there's a license manager, which will be useful after the upcoming Monday. There is a link to discourse, user manual. There is an about link here, which is really helpful if you want to report a bug or something. So to let us know what's exactly the version that you're using. And there is it tells you where the logs are. Then you have enable, disable pollination. Excuse me. This is important for only one reason. So if you have the plugin enabled, if I select a room, you'll see we add some extra properties here to your Revit model. If this is something that you don't want, or other people are going like, or your BIM manager is going to be really mad, something, and you don't want it to be added to all the project, you can basically come here and disable pollination. Keep in mind, when you disable, if you have done any work, you will lose it. We don't have, like, disable is not like turn on and then turn off. Disable means like remove pollination data from this model, so we have a clean model. This is an option, again, like some people ask for, so we add it here. So you have it. Then we have all the settings here: material manager, construction set, the schedule manager, and program type manager. These are important if you want to export the model to Open Studio, Energy Plus, or go HVJSON and go to Rhino. I'm not going to talk about this today. We have tutorial videos as part of our user manual, mainly for the Rhino plugin, but we are using the exact same UI. So if you learn the UI, you can use it on both sides. These are all for settings, so you can create your own construction set, or you can create your own schedule that you want, and then you can add them to the rooms here. So if I select a room and I go here, there is a manage properties, manage room properties button. And this is the place that I can go and use those construction set or program type. Again, for this presentation, that's not what I'm going to focus on. I'm going to focus on the export model geometry side, which I know is the pain point for most of you. And the main reason to use the plugin, at least to get started using the plugin. So with that, the last one here, this is really last but not least, is export model. So what export model does, it opens up this menu for you, which has 7 different steps. So I go through these different steps to export the model. The first one here, you have an option for an extruded model versus a detailed model. You can see the difference here. So why we have extruded versus detailed? Because when you get a model during the design process, if you want to do just load calculation, say, or you have a model which every geometry is extruded, like the Revit advanced sample model that I will show, it's easier to do it the extruded way. The extruded way is very similar to how you would export files as DXF or export polylines and then bring them up and then add window. With the difference here that we support both detailed windows and simple ratio windows. So if you have a model and you want to simplify it a lot, then you can just do a simple ratio window, just dump everything into a single rectangular window in the center, or you can keep it detailed that will show all the windows and apertures that you have. I'll talk about this during the process. So here you can change the phase if you want, and then compute volume. If you're using Revit, you should be already familiar with the concept. So we set it on to compute the volume correctly during our process. So I'll go ahead with detailed first, and then I come back and do other changes. So if I go with detailed, it goes next. The next step is user data. User data is helpful for you if you want to add additional information to your HV.json file, which is not available in our UI. For example, if you have window and you want to tag it with something, you can create a parameter inside Revit, and then you can ask here for it to be exported. You can see like there are some that we have added. There are some that comes with default. You can export all the comments, for example, for all the rooms, all those stuff if you want to do. For most cases, you won't need to do any user data. But it brings a lot of flexibility to the process. The next step is to select what is considered an aperture. So let me just go ahead and select nothing and see what happens. I go here, I select this, I select all the levels. I go to the next step. So after I select all the levels, this is the place that it really parses all of them. And after it parses all of them, I can select them, click this preview or reload preview. And the first time it takes longer because it loads the libraries. And you should be able to see the 3D model of your analytical model inside Revit without doing any export. So what happened is, because I didn't select any apertures, as you can see, it has no windows, but it exported all the geometries correctly. Does it make sense so far? If you have any questions that I have to answer, let me know in the middle. So now I can go back and say, let's actually add the apertures that I want. And we have separated them by type. So walls are usually not aperture. I mean, from the Revit models that I have seen people do crazy things. But walls shouldn't be an aperture, but we still make it available here. So if you use a wall for an aperture, don't do that. Then I select this one, a system panel glaze. I select this one, the curtain wall, and I select all the windows.
Yeah, Mustafa, I have a question there. That this actually happens a lot when people do repeating walls architecture. So those are going to end up, is that the use case for a wall where you have a wall with a window inside of it? And it's really registered, because you can do like nested things. And that's really where you run to a lot of problems using architects' models, is those funky things that they do to make their documentation easy. So there's a couple of models that I'd like to pass along to you that we've run into a lot of trouble in.
We can try it again. Like my answer for those questions, like it's case by case. Send me the model, I can tell
makes
you.
sense. Yeah.
But maybe Conrad can say, but to me it has been case by case. But now you can see what just happened after adding those aperture. It parsed all the apertures. Just to be clear, it does all the cleaning for you. You see, like it does a very great level of detail, but at the same time, if you have three, 4, 5 level of glass faces, they will be all combined into one. It's all clean. And now you see one thing. I don't know, Max is on the call, but like he will be like, if this is an energy model, I don't need this column. Understood. And that's right. And this is why we visualize this here. So you see this before exporting to any software, right? So what I can do here, I can go here, click on the level 1, you see, and this is when we basically create a Revit view for you. This is also helpful for like QA, QC your model. So I just do create floor plan, and it does create the floor plan for me. So this is a pollination view. The rooms are already, you know, visible to you. You have the separation lines in a way that you can see them. So it's one of the things that we see a lot. People draw a separation line just behind the window. I don't know why, but then that messes up with parsing the whole window. So you can see that and remove them. So what I'm going to do now is like I click on this, right click, select all instances. I think I should click one more. Select all instances in entire model, and then I'm going to remove room banding. So the room banding is gone here. I go back here. I see no change right away. One of the things that we did, we're not listening to Revit events, because if the model is large, this can take a long time. So we give you full control on how you want to do it. And in this case, because I changed the geometry, instead of clicking on reload preview, I'm going to click on reload geometry. And this means it will parse everything again. And now we should see the column in the center is gone, right? Does it make sense so far? Any questions?
Yeah, if you have, if there is no room bounding in the Revit model, like if you have kitchen and dining, and if you're doing a large scale project having 500 rooms, and if they have missed around 10 giving a room tax, how it will be represented in the model?
So let me see if I understood your question correctly. So you still have a room, but you don't have the volume of the room, or you don't have any rooms?
We have a room, but it has not been a room tagged properly with the volume.
Okay, with the volume. So, okay, that's a good question. So you get a model, there is no volume tag, you don't want to clean your model. In that case, you want to get a quick thing out to do a study, just go change this to extruded and simple ratio. And now the only thing that you need is the room outline. So if I go back and select all this, and now if I select this and do preview, now you'll see instead of the need to do the whole cleaning, so it gives you a simulatable model. It tries to calculate the volumes for you, but you don't have to clean up anything in your base model. I can show it to you. I think it makes more sense when I show the Revit Advanced model, because you have more rooms and everything is extruded. And if I show you like how it quickly helps you, because Revit Advanced model is really what you just mentioned. I can show you that. But this is the solution that we have for that. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, great. So let me go back and do start the daylight simulation. And while the daylight is running on cloud, I'll just continue showing the rest of the Revit stuff. Go here, go back here. This time it's detailed. Should I add the column back? How many daylight modelers we have here? Will be really annoyed that I did the column. Okay, well, a few I said. I mean, I can't go there, but just let's disregard it for now, okay? It's okay, you can add the column back. Just go into Revit, again, like go to this and then set it back to be room bounding. One of the other things that I wanted to show is when you create a room, you see this one is blue versus this one is black. This means the level 1 is part of your Revit document now. If you want to clean it up, you can just right click here and delete that floor plan. So that one is deleted. Going back here, I'm good here, go to next. So next step, I have to add sensor grid to model. You only do this if you do daylight simulation, of course. So I can add to all of them. Then I can remove it from shaft here. This doesn't go with daylight. And then this linen thing doesn't have any window. I mean, we can check the model and make sure, but this is how basically you add sensor grids. There's grid size here, and there's distance from to floor here. One more thing that we will add at some point is offset inwards. I know for European standards, you need to offset your sensor grids inside. So now that we have this, I'll go to next. And here is the place that if I wanted to do an energy modeling, I would have set my construction set, program types. Otherwise, they will be set to default. For this case here, I'm not going to do any of those. What I'm going to do, I'm going to export this as HVJSON, which is what I'm going to run the simulation on cloud. And I'm going to export it to GEM file format for IES. Someone asked for it. And I'm going to show those two as part of the process. You can export to EQUAS, IDF, GBXML, all those stuff. So I'm going to do HVJSON. We call it Honeybee model user meetup. Oops. Hello, I'm back. Save. Then this will be saved. Then I'm going to export it to ISVE as a gem file. So I have another IES model there. Let's just do user meetup. And I save that. So those two are saved. A few things to keep in mind when you do that, and maybe this is a UI thing that we have to do better. Because we support partial export, when you do export, you have to have the rooms selected. I have seen people just selecting one room and then do export, just assuming everything will be exported. It doesn't. You have to select them. That's why I select them when I exported them. But with that, now I have my model exported, so I can go ahead and do the rest of fun things. Any questions so far that I have to answer?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I have one question about separation line on Revit. Is it considered after in GBJSON or on GEM as wall or as air bonding?
Air boundary. I don't know the answer. I think for now it's considered as wall, but we can do it air boundary.
So
Actually, that's a good suggestion. Conrad,
I can answer that. So obviously the assumption would be that room separation lines would be air boundaries. Unfortunately, because of how because the limitation on air boundaries, they basically have to be identical on both sides. Revit doesn't always does this, right? So when you draw a room separation line, it might generate different surface on one side than it does on the other in Revit, and it's extremely hard for me, or at least it was extremely hard for me to generate a valid surface boundary between those two for energy model, right? So when I can, and when those two surfaces match on both ends, we will tag them as air boundaries, but it rarely happens actually in Revit that it generates a clean model like that. So short of maybe in the future, we'll try to cure the model, so to speak, so those surfaces, so that they are air boundaries. But for the most part, at the moment, there will be surfaces. There's a couple of instances when, for example, you have openings in walls, and you would draw a room separation line because openings in Revit walls are not separating rooms. Your rooms would bleed through an opening in the wall. So people usually draw a room separation line through that. That is pretty good to for generating air boundaries, actually, because those usually come out clean for some reason. All the other ones, especially when you have room separation lines intersecting with walls, Revit does all sorts of weird stuff in there. So unfortunately, that will be a no in most cases.
Yeah, but I think it's important enough for us to spend some more time and figure it out. And am I right? You posted this on the forum and then deleted your question?
Yeah.
Because don't do that.
The last version of Pollination.
Yeah, it was like I saw the question and then I came back and the question wasn't there. So okay.
But I saw the meetup and I was okay. I will ask at the meetup. And
okay, great question. Yeah, good one. So let me go ahead, and then if you remember, like we just export the HVJSON model, and then an ISGEM model. So I'm going to use the HVJSON model to set up the annual daylight simulation. So what happened? I clicked on that login. It brings me here, and then I'm going to log in with my email. So now I'm logged in. If I go back here, now it knows who I am, which is important because now it knows which projects I have access to and all those. I can go to Recipe Manager. I'm going to select the Ladybug Tools demo project, which is what we use for demos. And then from all the recipes that we have, I'm going to use Annual Daylight one because it has multiple metrics and it's more interesting to show. And when I say run, it brings the inputs. If you're Rhino user, this model will be linked to your model, but in Revit, you have to go and select the one that you exported. So this is the one. And then I need a WEA file for weather file. And I'm going to take the Golden Colorado one for this case. Let me do this. And then you have control on like how many CPUs you want to use. This is not a large model. I'm going to use, let's say 25 CPUs, and I'm going to limit how small each grid can be. This is important to just make sure don't break down your model too much because that adds overhead actually on spinning up new machines on cloud and makes things slower than faster. So you should have like a good number based on the data. So like 200 is fine for this inputs that we have. And this is something that we're trying to optimize, give you better suggestions as you go. So run name is user meetup Revit sample model. And now that I said all this, I can do run. And what it does, it basically prepares this and it will start the run on a cloud. And when it starts run on Pollination, it is go to run manager. Takes a few seconds for this to happen. So here you go. So this is the one that's running. I can do a few things. One is I can go to Pollination and see it. I just clicked on it. It opened the window here. So you see the job has been submitted. It's a start the run. You can check the input. So I can go check the model to make sure the model is submitted correctly. You know, like I can go here and turn off the roof ceiling one. So you see this is the linen and shaft that I removed the sensor grids, and everything else has the sensor grid, so the input model looks fine. Again, we checked it inside Revit, but you can check it on Pollination too. If you're interested to see how the simulation runs, you can go here and check the debug. But I don't want to be here watching this, right? I want to keep working. And what I can do, I can click here and say watch job. So this means it's a start watching this job, and when the job is finished, it will have a pop-up here for me to know that's finished. While I'm waiting for that job to run, what I'm going to do, I'm going to import the model to IES that we just exported, the same model. So I'm going to open IES. It looks like everything is slower now because we're sharing the screen, but IES should open. Thank you, IES. So you can create a new project, quick create. Unfortunately, create from Beam doesn't have gem. I think that's something that we should suggest for them to add to make it easier. But what you do, you go to IES, go under File, Import BIM file, and here select gem. And this is the one that I just exported for user meetup. So open, and you see it opens with no issues. The same model, if I would have used GBXML, you would have get some errors on this room. And that's something that was really hard to figure out because it's GBXML involved, like IES GBXML parser involved, like so many things involved. But export to gem, we have full control on it. And if something doesn't work, we can fix it for you. You can see everything came in, everything is clean. You have all the rooms here, you have the shades and all those. So which file format do I export to import into Design Builder? The one that they recommend is GBXML. Because even if you do IDF, IDF goes to GBXML before being exported to Design Builder.
I have a question. Sorry, maybe I missed it. What happens to the gap between the floors?
Oh, okay. Good question. And I'll show it. And that's a good place for me to go to the Revit Advanced model. So because those elements are room bounding, let me find a section here. Here's a section. Here's a section. Go to view. Because this elements of room bounding, right, then your room is not going to go all the way up. And if you do the detailed export, this is how it will be exported. We have a few ideas of how to do it. If you are a Rhino user, we have already shown that there isn't a script that basically creates plenum for you. the other idea that we have is to add the functionality inside Revit that you can just type in a plenum height and we can add a plenum or a way to offset it up and down. But for the models that everything is extruded, like the Revit advanced sample model, we have a better solution. So let me move to that model and then I can show everything else, including the one that you asked right now for that. So I'm not going to save.
There's
I'm going
also
to-
a question if you can show an export to Design Builder. Do we have, yeah.
I mean, I can do GBXML and export, but I can't guarantee anything with GBXML really works, but maybe it works. So I can do it, yes. And we'll see how it works. So you can see as I was working, my job is being completed. So if I click here, and now I'm in a different model, does it work that way? We will see, because the job manager is actually linked to the model. I just opened a different model, but doesn't matter. So that means if I go here, you see my job is being completed for daylight thing. And maybe this is a distraction because we were working on something else, but there is a visualization output I can click on. And here you go. This is your model that has been simulated with visualization. You have all the outputs here. There is this isolate data thing that's helpful. We know that when you have multiple floor, right now we're not doing a great job. So we are adding a section cut. So you can just basically see floor by floor if you want. But for now, what you can do is, for example, in this case, I can go here and again, turn off roof ceiling. I always have to select floors and make them white for better visualization. And then now you can see, like, I can go and see like daylight autonomy, right? Or I can go and see useful daylight illuminance that, yeah, no kidding, you have way too many windows here. And to be fair to Revit model, I didn't export this context. And you said that could have been better. So here you can go change different views that you have. You can change the color set. If you want, you can change all this, inputs. And you can also share this with your colleagues, friends, whoever has access to Pollination. I'm sharing it with you. So if you click on this, you'll see the 3D visualization of the result on Pollination. Right now, all the settings that I set here is not going to be saved. So when they open it, they will see it as like when we open the model. But that's also something that we are working on. So you should be able to open the model and exactly see what I'm seeing here. I mean, if you want them to see something, you can also capture a screen, of course, right? And you can send them a screenshot. That's also an option. Here, this is the screenshot that I just captured. Now let me go back to Revit and continue our work with this one and answer the questions. Yeah, we're running a little bit behind, but it's good that we have Q&A going as we do. So for this one, again, by now you should know the menus, so I'm going to go fast. What I'm going to do, I'm going to, instead of doing extruded, I'll show you the detailed model and I show you why this is a problem for this model. So I'm going to select all this. And I'm doing this, I don't save my file so I can show it to you, but you don't have to do this every time. If you select the curtain walls that are supposed to be, or the apertures, regardless of being curtain wall or windows, and save it, it will be saved in your model. So you don't have to do this like me every single time. This is only for demo purpose. So I'm going to select only one floor for this one. To just tell you what can go wrong. So here, if I select these things and preview them, you will see this happens, right? You see you have apertures here and the roof stops here, the ceiling at the ceiling of the room. And because of that, you get all this funky shapes. So why this is happening, if you want to know why this is happening, you can create a floor plan quickly. Go to the floor plan here. Draw a section. It's under view, section. And I hope everyone is on this call and say they don't know Revit. Just watching me, be confident enough that you can do it if I can do it, because I have no idea how this thing works. But we basically designed it in a way that you don't need to know that much Revit, and it still should be able to to figure out what you need to do. So now if I go here, I can't see the rooms. So the way to edit it, I go to visibility graphs, it comes here. So I go to rooms, and then where are our rooms? Here we go, click, and then just so I can see them better, here we go. So now you see what was happening. You have ceilings here that are room bounding, and that's what messes up everything. So if I really want to do this, again, like I do this, right click, select all instances, in entire project, remove room bounding. This is done. I go back to this. If I do reload geometry, you'll see the first floor is resolved. But I'm going to go back to a real project, right? This is not that large of a project. I could fix it, and still you will see I fixed it. There are like 2 here. And I think you should spend time and fix the model if it's just closer to the end of the design, or you don't have time, you don't want to deal with this. And that's the time that that extruded model is really helpful. So what you can do, and it's for a lot of energy modeling, that's all you really need. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go change it to extruded, change the windows to simple ratio. And to answer to your question, this is what happens. To pull that gap together, if you do extruded, you can click on pull up room height, and then this will pull up the room all the way to the top, so you get the full geometry. So let me go next, next, next. This time I'm going to select all the floors. Next, I'm going to select, it's parsing. So this is the only step that we parse the geometry. It takes a few minutes, and now I can do, once it's done, I mean, I can do a preview here quickly. That was the preview of only one room. But if I do pure preview, so you get a very simulatable, clean model quickly from your Revit model without the need to go and fix every room volume. So that's why we have the extruded there. And the gap is gone, right? But still, there are things that if you really get into this model, you want to fix, like this area, you see this? Like this thing is small, comes here, that messes up this wall. There are things that you want to fix, but yeah, I leave that to you. So now I can validate model if I want, or because we don't have time, I just jump to next step, and I'm going to export this to GPXML and keep my fingers crossed, and also export it to eQuest. If you had time, I wanted to show you there are things that you have to set up before doing to eQuest. But because I already know about it, I can set it up. So this is not set up correctly. Maybe we do another presentation for that, but let me go to the 3rd floor and make sure everything has top exposed. So now I have top exposed. So I'm going to do export to, select everything. Export everything to eQuest. I call it eQuest model user meetup. And I believe if you want to do design builder, you probably want to do the detailed one, but because of the time, I'm going to do, where's GPXML? GPXML user meetup. And I haven't opened my design builder, so let's hope I have a license. Okay. So maybe we should answer questions while I'm going to open up eQuest and show that model.
So we had a question from Alma about the ability to run an SDA study through Revit, or like through the Pollination website. So
yeah, so we do not have a recipe to be able to give it out right now. And the reason, honestly, is just we're trying to do it right. Otherwise, we have everything that runs that gives you the results. So yes, you can, and it's not a Revit thing, right? You see how it works. It has any recipe, you can add recipe, and when there is a recipe available, because we have the analytical model, you can run it. Oh, so I have Design Builder working, and I have this here too. So I'm going to do eQuest first. I go to downloads. I'm going to change this to IMP and I'm going to open EQuest model. Okay. And meanwhile, I go here. How do you do it even in? Okay, I don't know how you do import GPXML. Anyone knows on the call, like how I do this?
You need to create a new file actually.
Oh, I have to create a new file first.
Yeah, and then you need to import it.
Okay, great. Thank you for your help. So while we are doing Design Builder, EQuest imported this. This is so like everything inside everything now with no errors. And here you go for EQuest modelers. This is your model. There is, like, you see this window missing here. That's because of the, oh, and EQuest is going to crash for Design Builder or what? Something is happening, but don't open Design Builder and EQuest at the same time. I think that's the lesson learned. But what really happens is like that window is missing is because of a intersection here. But overall, you see, you get a very acceptable model for starting your model. This is, again, very alpha. And thanks goes to Trevor for developing this, and BR+A also for supporting it. So now let's go import GPXML. Import, where's GPXML?
Import 3D model actually.
Yep. I don't know. Do you want open? Yes? No?
Yep.
Yes. Okay.
Press OK. Yep.
Okay. God, this is so many steps to get GPXML.
Welcome to Design Builder.
Yeah, like just for. Okay, any other? We have 1 minute. I think we go over a little bit. Apologies, we started a little bit late, but I hope
While
this
that's
gives you.
loading,
Yeah, like,
sorry,
and I'll be around to answer questions.
yeah, we can go a little bit over, and if people have to sign off. I
Right,
think that's okay.
and the recording will be available. So.
There is a question about signing certificates for Revit add-ins. Is that something that's under review by Revit?
It's already certificated. Our Revit add-in is already certificated.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, actually, I should have elaborated. My question wasn't on the Revit add-in, but the installer for Windows. Yeah. So you need a sign, and that's may cause some issues in some large organizations where you don't allow non-certified installers.
Okay.
So
We'll
just
try
watch out
that.
for that. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so this is on us. We're signing the DLLs, but we haven't signed the MSI.
The installer,
It's
yeah, and
been
that
very
takes
good,
a
yeah.
little bit. I went through that process for some of our internal things. You have to purchase 2 things from Windows. So I just wanted to bring that up. Some people may complain that installer is not signed.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think like that's definitely something to. What happened to GPXML? I don't know where is the GPXML file here. So, and we don't have time. What I can do, I can show another one that I have probably, I'm pretty sure I have exported some XML here, Revit model, let's see, XML at some point. So any other questions? Sample model, Revit export. So this is GPXML. Let's Revit sample model there too. So this one is 1 megabyte, looks like larger. So let me copy its path, go back to Design Builder, open. How does this work next? Yep, here you go. So is it a good model or bad model? I have no idea. Finish. The shading is, I think this is the, okay, this is not good. This is the Revit GPXML export, not Pollination GPXML export. And no, I'm not going to go through all those like 7 processes to import GPXML. I'll do a different separate video at some point just to export the stuff to GPXML and show it. To Design Builder, I don't know what I said. Any other questions that we have to answer?
Yeah, so there's a question from Loic about, is there a plan to allow importation of materials and other values that come with GBXML for IESVE? Like, are you in contact with IESVE?
So yeah, we're not, like, we didn't talk about that. So if you want to get, I mean, we are in contact, but we didn't talk about that specific item. If you want to get all the material information, use GBXML. There will be a little bit of geometry that is not going to be fine, but then you can use GEM for that part. I don't know if GBXML, if IES has another format that supports material data, for us, writing an exporter is not that hard. But the thing is, there should be an open API, open format that we can write to export that.
Okay.
Maybe
then
I could also add quickly that all the material information and construction should make it into the GBXML. And if not, that, that's an issue. But yeah, all the material information should be there. The only thing that doesn't make it there would be schedules and loads. And I'll post a link to exactly what makes it into which formats. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, he had a follow-up question, and like you can totally unmute if you want to just converse. IES doesn't import more than geometry through GBXML apparently.
No, I think IES actually has a lot of controls when you go.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. You have to, as long as the format's correct, you can bring in constructions and templates and things like that.
Right.
Hi. Thank you for your answer. So apparently, when we try to import information with GBXML, we only have geometry. Like it never comes with the rest. Everything comes by default. Like all the materials come by default. Nothing comes like all the conduction. Like nothing comes.
Yeah. So here is the thing. So when you do GBXML, go to options, and there is a place that says, for example, even you can import HVAC. I know there is a
You have to
place.
actually do it, Mustafa, when you go to
from
create
that
from
new
BIM.
project, right?
Yeah.
Yep, here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it. So when you do this, I think this is the part that they ask you, like you see there is geometry, assigned data, geometry, simple, geometry, all data. So
Yeah,
you
you have to
select
go
that
to
file.
detailed assignments, and then it'll walk you through pulling it in for constructions and all that stuff.
All right, I'll try again, but so far we never managed to. Even if it shows like the table shows import data, import all the materials, it never is right at the end. Like at the end, we only have
I think
geometry.
that's the question for IES. And if you want to email your IES team and CC us, that's something that we can work together because we export them to GBXML. So maybe we don't do it the way they want, and that's why I'm trying to get as far as possible from GBXML if possible. So we'll see if there is another format like GEM that we can do all the other information.
Mustafa, I had a lot of success just going to OSM, then GBXML, then to go.
Oh, that's what we do under the hood.
Yeah. So that works out pretty good. The Revit one's garbage,
No,
already.
that's what we do under the hood. We go HBJSON, OSM, GBXML. So when you export to GBXML,
that works out well. So whoever was speaking, if you go with this add-in, it should work because the OSM GBXML translation works out pretty well for IES.
All right. Thank you very much for your answer.
So we have a bunch of people joining. I think it's because of the daylight savings time change that we had here. We're an hour earlier. The last question we do have is, what about second B space boundaries from Hamid? I don't know if he's still on the call, but.
Second B, you mean what is that, the intersection? You mean like between like you're here.
Still on the call. So my question was related to space boundaries in the Revit GBXML is not so well detected. So it means which rooms is in boundaries between walls. And my question is if in your GBXML, your own GBXML, you also detected which parts of the wall tear between spaces.
Yes, so I just opened it in Rhino so I can show what you to people what really that means. So what really happens is, you're right, it's not 100% there, Revit, but Revit does a good job. And okay, let me go this. I'm going to only show the surfaces, refresh. So you'll see it picks up the ones that exactly match. This is the one that Conrad was talking about. So it's partially supported. But if you have a case like this, you see this? They are in touch, but because they're in different floor, in Revit, we don't do intersections. And that's why when I opened up, I said we don't go directly from Revit to energy simulation and we do daylight. Because there's stuff like this that still needs to be addressed. But if you export that and you just come to Rhino, I know that means another extra plugin, but that's something that's the best solution that we have right now. So we can basically do PO solve adjacency here, and you can do intersect, do match, no custom construction, and then I can basically select all this. and then run this command. And as soon as this command is executed, you'll see that now that problem is resolved, and they are also thinking. Yeah, again, Revit plugin for energy modeling gets you very close, but this is a limitation that you can quickly fix in Rhino, as I showed.
Okay, I think that was the last set of questions.
Great. Yep. Okay, I'll do the import to design builder and